And hi guys, and I am back with another video. This is Joyce. Joyce knows who's done it. And I hope you guys are having a wonderful Sunday. We are going to make some cabbage and some corned beef. Sort of an Irish St. Patrick's Day. But it's something that's a family favorite and it's easy enough to make here. In the comments, tell me what you guys are having for dinner. Today I'm going to talk about a very interesting character by the name of Drew Peterson, and you may have seen him. I believe there was a movie made about him as well. We're going to look at him a little bit. So Drew Peterson was born January 5th, 1954 in Bolingbrook, Illinois. And once Drew finished high school, he joined the U.S. Army and he attended college. In 1974, he actually went down to Virginia to be able to be trained as a military police officer. Now, in 1977, he began his 30-year-long career as a police officer in Bolingbrook, Illinois. And in 1979, I guess he was a good cop, at that time, doing his job. He actually received the Police Officer of the Year award. So it seemed as though he did his job very well. But let's take a look a little more at his personal life. So in 2007, he actually retired as a police officer at the age of 53. And at that point, he was given a pension of, check this out, $6,600 a month pension is what he would get. Drew, I'm not sure, was he a lover boy or was he a misogynist? Because he had 4 wives. The first wife, Carol Brown, he married her in 1974, and she was like his high school sweetheart. They stayed together. They had 2 children. Not as much domestic violence type of issues, but he was just, a cheater, and she kind of had enough of that after about 6 years. His next wife was Vicki Conley. Now, he married her in 1982. They had many domestic violence issues. He told her that if she didn't act the way he wanted her to, he would kill her and make it look like an accident. They divorced because, once again, he had domestic violence issues with her, as well as he was dating his 3rd wife, even though he was married. His 3rd wife he married in 1992, and that was Kathleen Savio. Now, they had 2 sons together, and man, was this a troubled marriage. Between the years 2002 and 2004, which is 1 year after their divorce, the police was called at least 18 times because of domestic violence issues. And one time after they had divorced because of problems with, exchanging of children with custody. With her, he even one day beat her up, knocked her down, had a knife to her throat, and he said to her, "Where do you want me to stab you?" And she said, "In the head." And I'm like, whoa, and he didn't stab her. He backed off of her simply because I think it was her courage. She was not afraid of him, and I think he kind of knew that. He was a bully, and he got bullied back. And also, he's saying that he didn't because she was the mother of his children. However, they were divorced, but on March 1st, 2004, Kathleen's body was found dead in a dry tub in her home. And now they did the autopsy on her, and the coroner, along with one of his friends who was a cop, was there. And the coroner ruled it as accidental drowning. But there was no water in the tub. But his friend vouched for Drew's friend, and said Drew would never do this. He's a good guy. It was an accident. So then after that, in 2003, this is before Kathleen had died, but at the time of the divorce from Kathleen, he married a 19-year-old. That's wife number 4. Her name was Stacy Peterson. Stacy was a very young girl, obviously. She was in school. She was finishing up her nursing degree. She was actually very afraid of Drew. They still had 2 children together, and as a matter of fact, she even adopted Kathleen's children after her death, her accidental death. She adopted those children. At one point, she even had gone to her priest to tell the priest that Drew had confessed to her that he had actually killed wife number 3, Kathleen, and made it look like an accident. And she said that she was completely afraid of him. Well, on October 28th, 2007, Stacy went missing. No one knew where she was. And how did they know she was missing? She would call her sister every day, and the whole day had passed and her sister hadn't heard from her, and her sister put in a missing persons report. Now, Drew claims that Stacy called him to say that she had left him for another man, and she didn't want to be with him anymore, and she even left her car, a 2002 Pontiac, at the airport, and he could go pick it up. No, my BS meter would have been ticking off right there. For Stacy to have 2 children with him, 19 years old, as well as even adopting the children of Kathleen, who mysteriously died, she wouldn't have just up and left the kids, period. And the family, her family, Stacy's family, as well as the police, thought that was a little bit odd to how both of these people, one missing, one went away. So the Illinois police, along with the FBI, got involved in the case, looking for Stacy. And by them getting involved in the case, things started making a real turn. For example, one of Drew Peterson's friends admitted to the police when he was investigated by the Illinois police and the FBI that he went with Drew to buy some big blue barrels, you know, like a barrel, and they bought 3 of them, and he even gave the police a photograph of the barrels. Number 2, there was another friend there who was with them when they were carrying the barrels, the barrel. They brought in 3, they only had 1. They carried the barrel out and put it in to Drew's SUV very early one morning. This friend attempted suicide because he was just absolutely distraught that he could have been part of Stacy's disappearance, because they didn't know what was in the barrel. They just were helping a friend, a buddy. Number 3, a neighbor close to Drew was also questioned, and the neighbors said that they saw 2 men and Drew carrying a big round blue barrel out of the house into his SUV. At this point, the police really, and the FBI said, no, something is not right here. So they actually, on November 2007, they exhumed Kathleen Savio's body, wife number 3. And they had the forensic specialist, Dr. Michael Bodden. Everyone's heard of Dr. Michael Bodden. They had him do an autopsy on her. And he said that she did not die from a drowning. He could see that she had scrapes and abrasions and things still on her, that she had a giant gash in the side of her head. And he said that she was murdered. In fact, he suggested that she had been drowned in the toilet. That's where the gash came from. That's where all the bruising on the back of her, on other parts of her torso, because it was a real struggle. And that's how she got into the tub. Now, at this point, this was May 2009, Drew was indicted and arrested for Kathleen's murder, but not Stacy, because Stacy was still considered a missing person. They didn't have any evidence to connect her. Now, Drew wanted out of jail, so he had a bond of $20 million that was set for him by the judge, and he went to his insurance company on the house, and they would not give it to him. They said his $172 million was not going to be enough collateral to cover a $20 million bond. And the judge ended up ruling that he had to stay in jail until trial time. The judge also had a sealed document that said that he believed that Drew was responsible for the death of Stacy, who was still missing, as well as Kathleen Savio, his third wife. But with Stacy, he couldn't be charged for it because they could not put the evidence together to say this was this. But the judge knew that this guy was no good. So in September 6, 2012, Drew was found guilty of premeditated murder of Kathleen Savio, his third wife. Sadly, his boys testified, two of his sons, and they were protective of their dad. They just couldn't believe their dad would do those things. So they didn't really know him like they thought they did. But children never do. Drew was sentenced to 38 years. Oh no, but Drew wasn't done. In fact, Drew talked to some people in jail once he first got in there, and he actually put a hit on the Chicago area lead prosecutor, so that he could be killed. The snitch told the story, and Drew had 40 more years tacked on to his sentence. So he actually is now doing 78 years for the attempted murder of the prosecutor, the hit on, or the murder of Kathleen, and Stacy's family knows that he did it. It's kind of like that secret that everybody knows, but they can't go forward with it without any evidence. And at this point, I don't know if they would find anything. You know, you never know, though, how the universe works. So I'm going to look at a couple things. I'm going to look at Drew. But the first thing I want to do is to see if I can contact Stacy. Let me invoke my cards. Now, if you only see just the thumbnail to this story, it's because it's too current still. If something is in the 90s, 70s, 80s, 50s, I can put up a lot of pictures. Stacy, Stacy, Stacy. Where are you, Stacy? Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I have the Five of Cups. And so here is the picture. Like, that's the picture. That's Stacy. And it's almost blue around there. Like she's in that blue container. She's in that blue container. 5 is a very severe number. So, yeah, it's about real tough love and real strong tests. And, yeah, so she's dead. That's for sure. She was in that container. Yes. Someone wanted to start a new life. This is Ace of Wands, and there was energy. There was a wand there. So someone, Drew, allegedly hit her with something. He hit her with something. This being the something, the wand. He wanted a new life, a new start, and he hit her with that wand. And then I've got the Seven of Swords, and then he got away. He got away. That's the Seven of Swords. This is someone that's a liar, a thief, a cheater, everything that he was. That's him. He hit her. So let's see if I can hold it this way so you can see what I'm saying. He hit her. He hit her is what happened. He hit her. That's what I am getting. He hit her and put her in the container. He wanted a fresh start. He was over it. He didn't want her to go any further. And he hit her and he took her life. And she had reason to be afraid. And she went on, passed on. Now, as far as Drew, I'm looking at him, and he's a number 7, but he's a 7 ill-dignified, someone that thinks they can outsmart people. That was a 7. That card I showed you was also a 7. 7 of Swords. That's him. A 7 life path when it's ill-dignified is someone who can be very manipulative. They can be a liar. They can be deceitful. They can use their intellect for bad. They research into things that's going to perhaps hurt others but benefit themselves. And that was him, very much so. He liked to be in control. Okay? He liked to be in control. He has a rising in Aries, so he would marry these people, act quick, marry somebody. He is total Capricorn, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, his North Node, Capricorn. So that tells me about him. The notes that I took down, or things I put down, is him as a Capricorn. Success would mean everything to him, right? Striving, success, step by step, going to the military, going to school, going to Virginia for training, climbing up the ladder in his chosen field. He'd be very cautious and probably very crude. I could feel he's a crude person, like those people that always want to tell dirty jokes or grab people and women in places and stuff like that. He wouldn't have trust for anyone. And then also being a police officer would definitely make him not trust anybody. His money and things would mean everything to him. Wanting to be independent, wanting to have his freedom, wanted to fool-la-la around, like I always say. But his money and possessions would have meant everything for him. So when you, as a female, come along, and like Kathleen, who he killed, who I'm sure wanted more child support or wanted some more things to take care of his children, that would be enough. And she was a very strong person, so he was going to have to get rid of her. And then killing Stacy would have been easy since he'd already done it before, and he talked about it so much. His Mars is in Scorpio, so that is explosion right there. His Saturn is in Scorpio, so that tells me that he would hold in his anger as much as he could, and when he exploded, there was no stopping him, and he would go too far no matter what. I think they should probably open up some cases of his policing and see what was real and what did he make up in acting out of temper. His Jupiter is in Gemini, so that makes him able to detach himself emotionally, where he could divorce these women, cheat on these women, kill these women. It didn't make a difference. He didn't have an emotional attachment to them anyways. Not to the children either. It just is not a part of who he is. Now, in 2004, when Kathleen was murdered, he was in a number 3 year. So he would have been pretty feeling sorry for himself all the time. Wanted to be free, wanted to have a good time. I don't want to be bogged down with you. I don't want to hear your problems. He would have that kind of energy. And then when Stacy, his last wife, disappeared, he was in a number 6 year, which says that he felt overburdened. It was too much going on with her. And I think there was another female that he was dealing with. He was going to marry another girl about 23 years old, but her father told her to get home, because she would talk to her dad, and her dad would say how possessive he was, how mean he was. And I think he had a lot of burdens he was carrying, and his idea of getting rid of burdens is cutting them loose. It was fast. It was impulsive. That earth sign would make him really rooted when it comes to material things and financial things and career. That's why he was Policeman of the Year in Bolingbrook, Illinois. All that speaks to that. But his impulsiveness, that Aries, Scorpio, Gemini, all of that crazy, mad, anger, secretive, sneaky, impulsive is what he is. And yeah, that is Drew Peterson, a real killer. And I think if he had not been captured, it would go on. And my prayers out to Stacy's family that maybe they find her one day and they can give her a decent burial. But guys, thank you for watching. And don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up, and definitely leave a comment. Let me know if you ever heard of him. Have a great day.